Welcome back to the special transmission on SCO 2024. As of course we were discussing as everyone is saying, a huge success for Pakistan. Of course, the information minister has said it, all the analysts we've talked to have said it, and of course that is the voice that we're hearing from every side. And of course, a very successful event for Pakistan, even despite all the false propaganda that was being spread. And of course, even those people, even those sides that was spreading this false propaganda, they had to come to Pakistan to attend this huge diplomatic event. And of course, with regards to that, in the studios we have been joined by senior analyst Rafae Iqbal, of course, an expert on diplomatic relations and economy. Rafae Iqbal, how do you comment on the success of the SCO Summit that was held in Pakistan, and of course the aims and objectives of the SCO, the progress it has made so far, and the vision for the future?
Thank you very much, Rafae. I think that government of Pakistan and people of Pakistan deserve to be congratulated on this awesome accomplishment. I think everybody, every delegate that I actually spoke to were confirming my impression that the government of Pakistan has been very, very good host, and the entire event was organized meticulously without any flaw. And that is not all. You were talking about Pakistan being isolated or that propaganda. Let me remind you that repeatedly this great nation of ours have been actually written off by people, right? Remember 10 years ago in 2014, people thought that maybe Pakistan will not be able to survive the onslaught of terrorism. This country turned the tide again, right? Then only 2 years ago, everybody was saying that this country is going to default, and then economy is not going to survive. The government of Pakistan has really worked hard to revive the economy as well. And now this mystique or this propaganda or this imputation of isolation, that is also ended now. As you pointed out earlier, that even those who had actually vowed to isolate Pakistan, they had to also come to Pakistan. I remember when SCO was first conceived, it was Shanghai 5, right? And at that time I was writing in papers, so I wrote that Pakistan should also join this very prestigious organization. And in 2017, when Mia Nawaz Sharif was the Prime Minister of Pakistan, Pakistan got into this body, and now the mountain has come to Pakistan. We did not have to go to mountain. That is not all. It was head of government's meeting. Hopefully in coming days we are expecting in 1 year perhaps, or whatever the timeline might be, a head of state event in Pakistan as well. So it is clear that Pakistan is not isolated, and Pakistan not only has strengthened its relationship with the friends that we already had like China, but we have gained others like Russia, whose Prime Minister is still in Pakistan, and umpteen others. Even India, there is this hope that eventually ice will melt and both countries will start talking to each other. So I think this overall event was great. It not only integrated their region more, of course, when it comes to declaration that we saw, and the professor also, with any multilateral institution, usually it is baby steps. You cannot anticipate or expect that all of a sudden you wake up and things are transformed and everything, roads are built, economies are integrated. But if we are taking steps in the right direction, so SCO has proven already that it is a body that is going to endure, and it is also developing its infrastructure compared to other multilateral organizations which have been there for eons. UN has been there for quite some time. Even SARC is quite old now.
Yes.
But in comparison, SCO is a young body. But even then, you have seen how many countries have actually flocked to get in, and the number keeps on increasing. Even observers like Mongolia and others, they have also shown their enthusiasm. Their leaders also came. So I think that with SCO and Pakistan, sky is the limit.
Right, definitely. That's a very important point that you raised, for Badafi. With regards to that, I'd like to also include Dr. Qandil Abbas, foreign affairs expert, in the conversation. Thank you for your time. Of course, as Farooq Badafi highlighted a very important point, of course, regional connectivity, and of course, how there needs to be enhanced, of course, there needs to be enhanced connectivity in the region. With regards to that, President Xi's vision of course, the Belt and Road Initiative, CPEC being a flagship project of that, and one of the main objectives of the SCO as well, regional connectivity. President Xi's vision in the modern era, in these times of heightened tensions to conflicts going on in the world, we see that the vision, which primarily focuses on cooperation, not confrontation. What's your views in this motto in these modern times?
Thank you very much for having me. Really, Shanghai Cooperation Summit is a great success for Pakistan, and international media is really praising Pakistan's efforts for organizing this summit very successfully. As Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif highlighted during the summit, that the regional cooperation for better future is very important for this region and for all over the world. And we know that Shanghai Cooperation Organization member states represented 40% of the world's population, and the summit offered a significant opportunity to enhance this regional cooperation, because right at this time we are observing a lot of conflicts on regional and international levels, especially in the SCO region. We have confrontation between Russia and Ukraine. On the other hand, we have very unstable conditions in Afghanistan. Similarly, India is having its own plans in the region. So, in such condition, organizing this summit successfully in Pakistan is highlighting importance of Pakistan and importance of Pakistani view for betterment of peace and stability in the region as well as on the world level. We know that on international level, power is gradually shifting from west to the east. And this shift of power is particularly represented by Shanghai Cooperation Organization, because it is representing 40% of the world's population. And on the other hand, in this organization, we are having four major and main nuclear powers, China, Russia, and Pakistan and India. So these countries can play a very important role in the region as well as in the world. I believe that in regional cooperation, these countries can plan and these countries can play their very efficient role, but it depends upon the conditions and the intentions the member of SCO are having.
In regards to that, Mr. Qandil, there was a statement by the Prime Minister, of course, a very responsible statement regarding Afghanistan and how there needs to be assistance to the Afghan interim regime, and of course to ensure an inclusive environment there, so militancy can be curbed down there. What's your thoughts on that statement by the Prime Minister? Of course, it's a very responsible statement with regards to promoting peace and stability in the region that could further strengthen the connectivity aspect.
Yes, of course. Prime Minister highlighted Afghanistan as a very important country for regional development and stability, but it depends upon the conditions in Afghanistan, because till the time Afghanistan is not stable and not peaceful, it will have very negative impacts on the first on the regional countries, especially on the neighbors of Afghanistan, and ultimately to the all over the region. Prime Minister also highlighted the need for international community to focus on humanitarian aid to Afghanistan, and particularly Pakistan is basing its politics and its strategy towards Afghanistan on peace in Afghanistan. And Pakistan is trying to provide all necessary humanitarian supports aids to Afghanistan. But on the other hand, it depends upon intentions those who are running Afghanistan, that they should not allow extremist groups to use Afghan land against other countries. Particularly, we have instance for Pakistan as the TTP is using very badly this soil of Afghanistan against Pakistani people, and they are killing innocent Pakistani people. So, for betterment of Afghanistan and stability in Afghanistan, it is the responsibility of regional countries as well as international community to provide them necessary support. But on the other hand, the Afghan Taliban must play their role as responsible people, because they should allow the education for females particularly, and human issues and humanitarian support. But as we observe that from Chinese involvement in the region, it is very positive, and China is providing good support to Afghanistan. On the other hand, Pakistan is also providing very positive assistance to Afghan people, both inside the Afghanistan and from Pakistani side. But international community, particularly international organization, must provide particular foundation to include Afghanistan in international mainstream politics. That can be very important for peace and stability of this region.
Definitely important points that you raised, Dr. Qandil Abbas. I'd like to include Farooq Patafi in the conversation as well. When we talk about regional connectivity, of course, connectivity with the Central Asian states, it provides Pakistan an opportunity for logistics and for the logistic support to all the trade that is going to be happening in the region. But of course, there's also other avenues that Pakistan is exploring right now, such as its blue economy. Pakistan is also wanting to incorporate advanced technologies in its agriculture sector, and of course human resource development being one of the major sources of Pakistan's revenue generation and one of the major products or services that it exports. For Patafi, how do you think Pakistan could capitalize on the untapped potential with regards to the SCO platform and trade with the member countries?
Right, Rafae, once again thank you very much for the question. I think that it is important that we look at two developments, not one. Actually, three. You remember that before SCO, we saw the Malaysian Prime Minister also visiting Pakistan, and Pakistan actually had a number of agreements regarding exports to Malaysia. Similarly, the Chinese Prime Minister very kindly came to Pakistan, and remember at that time, because of the Karachi incident, there was speculation that maybe that visit might be cancelled, but it was not. Shows you how enduring that relationship is. And because Pakistan has this bilateral agreement with China called CPEC, right, cooperation, because of that we already are entering into the era of modernization, of agriculture, of industrial, special economic zones and similar kind of places. Because of that, we are going to already modernize a lot. But where we have been actually beaten up so far, remember that when it comes to Pakistan-China trade, there is a trade imbalance because China exports somewhere around $22 billion worth, product, and Pakistan in return does not even reach $3 billion. Why would that be? Because our own exporters, our own manufacturers haven't studied Chinese market, and they haven't actually customized their product according to that market. So the first thing is that as a result of CPEC also, and this was also part of the SCO because the Chinese Prime Minister was here also. Because of that, Pakistan is now getting a new shot at exploring that market, adding value to your product, and then tapping that potential, right? Now, let us talk about SCO. SCO, as was pointed out, not only is, represent 40% of world population, which is huge, out of 8 billion, right? This many people. Not only that, it also represents the world's 1/3 GDP, right? Economic activity. So with that kind of potential, there are pockets where you haven't been able to bring about, progress. especially many parts of India, many parts of Pakistan, a lot of Central Asia, some parts of Russia also. So the whole idea of working together in tandem is to ensure that the fruits of those that progress can reach those people as well. So I think earlier Dr. Qandil was talking about this power shift that we keep on talking about from north to south. My concern is power and politics are the enemies of development. I think the most important thing right now is that you actually focus on what is important, and that is the well-being of the people. So China has a great example. China has brought millions out of poverty, and made their lives better. So I think that when we work together, when we are actually exploring each other's market, and then Central Asia, remember that the SCO actually represents two blocks, economic blocks. One is China's BRI. The other one is the Eurasian Union led by Russia. So if the twain can meet, and if Pakistan and India can also learn to work together, our biggest problem so far, Rafae, has been that we have been exploring the north-south trade, but when it comes to east-west trade, we haven't been able to exploit the potential. If we can work together, and this time I was pleasantly surprised by the body language of Jai Shankarji, right? Because we think that he is very combative foreign minister, but the cordial, demeanor with which he approached the event was really heartening to see. So there's great hope. If we actually I start smelting between India and Pakistan, and all these countries actually work in tandem, I'm sure that we can reach any limit that we want. We can touch the sky. We can make lives of people better. And then, of course, Central Asia is landlocked. We keep on talking about Russia, China, India, Pakistan, but Central Asia has to be the focus, because beautiful people, great opportunities, but they are landlocked, and they would also need access to hot waters. So Pakistan can play a very crucial role in helping them achieve that as well.
Of course, a lot of potential that should be capitalized on. To talk more, we've also been joined by Sirajuddin Aziz, Federal Banking Ombudsman. Thank you for your time and being part of the conversation, sir. The SCO 2024, a huge success for Pakistan. And of course, we were deliberating on the different avenues that were discussed. Of course, there was the talk of expediting efforts for the establishment of the SCO Development Bank, for the establishment of the SCO Development Fund. And of course, it was also highlighted that there should be a gradual increase in the share of national currencies in mutual settlements. How do you think this is going to affect the trade of all the member states of the SCO individually, and impact the trade and economy of the SCO platform at large, considering all the member states?
Well, I think first and foremost, I think I need to comment on this great opportunity that Pakistan has had to host this summit. Gives us an opportunity to showcase of how we could possibly help and be a catalyst in the development of regional trade. I personally think that this opportunity has been very effectively used by Pakistan as well, in terms of developing on a bilateral basis also. We have had on the sidelines several bilateral meetings taking place. I think the fundamental aspect of creating an environment of trade and investment between these nations will be to have financial institutions operating across these regions. That is to say that Pakistan must have a Pakistani banking presence must be there in all these regions, and they must be allowed to have their operations of their banks, because they are going to facilitate the promotion of trade and investment. We'll have to create that climate first and foremost. Once that is done, then we could look at currency swaps and settlements within each other's currencies, so that there is greater reliance on our own resources rather than buying out foreign currencies against our local currencies, and then having an impact on, of course, the balance of payments and the balance of trade. So I personally see that this is one key initiative that can be initiated out of this particular thing, is that the China Economic Corridor can be opened up to the entire SCO. And I think that's going to be a major game changer for everybody else as well, just as much it will promote the regional connectivity of Pakistan vis-a-vis the entire, the earlier speaker was mentioning about how beautiful this central part of Asia is where it occupies almost 40% of the world population, and you connect it to the Horn of Africa entirely through the CPEC route and to the Middle East. So I personally think that having financial institutions in place is going to be the catalyst. And once that happens, I think we'll be able to build up on ties, economic ties.
As you mentioned the balance of payments, of course, when we talk about the member states of the SCO, we know there's some members that are in abundance with hydrocarbons and fossil fuels, and there are others that are mostly consumers as they are manufacturing and industrial partners. How do you think this framework is going to benefit the SCO as a platform with regards to the balance of payments issues of all the member states, and of course with regards to the internal trade settlements between all these member states?
Well, most importantly, I think the aspect of having the security concerns, I think those need to be addressed as well. The element of certain instability that we see around in the region will have also to be addressed in order to promote trade. And when you mention about some countries being surplus on the energy side and some countries being only consumers of the energy sector, I think it's a situation where I think the lines will have to be established. And for that, we would need not economic aspect, but we'll have to look at the social aspect of stability. Once that happens, I think the lines will be easily established to exchange even energy across the various geography.
Right. And Mr. Sirajuddin, as you mentioned the security aspect, of course, we know that when we talk about regional connectivity, as Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, he also made a very responsible statement regarding providing assistance to Afghanistan, so the issue of militancy and instability can be diffused down there. When we talk about the security threat, of course, do you think providing assistance to the Afghan side by the SCO platform could, of course, creating an inclusive environment there, could curb down these tensions? And of course, I'd also like your comments on the RATS, the Regional Anti-Terrorism Structure, with regards to tech and intelligence sharing with regards to countering terrorism.
Well, you see, at this point in time, as far as my understanding goes, I think there is already in place a regional anti-terrorism structure, which is referred to as a RATS. Coincidentally, this is based out of Uzbekistan, and it's expected to play a very critical role and a very crucial role to facilitate intelligence sharing and counterterrorism cooperation between the SCO countries. I think that's going to help. And of course, we'll have to have an all-inclusive situation. We can't exclude Afghanistan out of this entire process because it's a critical part of the landmass. So I think it's important to engage with Afghanistan on this issue. And I think RATS as an institution could possibly play a very significant role. And then on an overall basis within the entire SCO concept, we can have a united front against extremism and terrorism.
Definitely. And with regards to the human resource and the socio-cultural aspect of the SCO, of course, it was deliberated on how there needs to be emphasis on poverty alleviation and the youth bulge that exists in all the member states. How do you think this youth bulge can be galvanized to create a greater revenue in all the member states? And of course, the potential that this youth bulge has, of course, as you also mentioned, and Farooq Gaddafi also mentioned, that the SCO member states, it contributes to a major chunk of the world's population.
Well, I think the youth bulge is an important aspect to look at, and each country has had a unique talent. So it is not that we have a situation where there is an oversupply of human resources. Personally, as a student of economics, I have always looked at human resources as a potential asset that needs to be deployed, retooled, retrained, and used for economic development. So I do not see this as a major challenge, and we can have some movement taking place of labor that is critically required in certain sectors. And we are talking of two major economies out here. We are inclusive of Russia as well as China. Given the potential that these two countries possess, and with China vacating the lower end of the value chain in certain industries, industrial sectors, I think the other SCO countries, the developing ones, have got a major role to play and occupy that value chain instead of handing it over to other economic regions.
Mr. Sirajuddin Aziz, Federal Banking Ombudsman, thank you for your valuable insights, of course, much appreciated. We'll continue with the special transmission and, of course, more questions for Farooq Badafi, who's in the studios for us, but right after a short break. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the special transmission. As we were discussing SCO 2024 in the studios, we have senior analyst Farooq Badafi with us. Farooq, of course, we deliberated on different avenues, different aspects of the SCO that were highlighted in this moot. Of course, but there's another aspect that I'd like to talk about as well. In the studios, we've discussed this many times, e-commerce and digital economy. Of course, it was the highlight, one of the highlights of this SCO moot. What potential do you think it has for Pakistan and all other members of the SCO? We know that China, of course, it already has made advancements in e-commerce sector. Do you think what other potential do all the other member states of the SCO have in these domains?
Right. Just to qualify the China bit, because China's contributions in everything now seem to be overtaking the entire world's economic progress, right? When Elon Musk took over X, which was at that time Twitter, somebody asked him, what do you aspire to make it? How do you want to transform it? And he said WeChat of China. WeChat, this app actually helps you in getting whatever you want, especially when it comes to payments, when it comes to vehicle booking, and even buying and selling stuff as well. So with that kind of digital, integration that we have seen in China, I think that other countries can learn a lot. Russia is another example where a lot of progress has been made in India also. But the problem is that if you, I don't know whether you have traveled to India, if you go to India, your Pakistani SIM can work anywhere else on the basis of roaming, but it cannot work in India. Similarly, if an Indian comes to Pakistan, that is the case with their mobile SIMs as well. So if we want to continue to have a dialogue of the deaf, that is our choice. Otherwise, if we want to work in tandem, we'll have to find ways to develop that kind of ethos where we can contribute, right? When it comes to smartphones, when it comes to digital penetration, we have seen in our own country a lot has happened, right? But still, our economy is still shy when it comes to digitization because of Rust, because of other things. We might have actually integrated a lot, and these small payment mechanisms as well, these micro banks based on mobile phones, right? But even then, all of that coming together and working in tandem can really transform lives, especially when the finance minister of Pakistan waged war on cash. At that time, the biggest problem has been and will be for some time as well, that all this lack of documentation is because we haven't actually migrated from cash to digital economy. And e-commerce also, there are so many examples from China, Russia, India also. But all of these bodies, because they have great potential, right? SCO has 10 countries now, and then observers as well. If they start working together, if they create cross-nation platforms, I mean, because of the sheer number of population and because of the volume of the economy itself, they can really transform the entire world, I think. And unfortunately, that hasn't been done. But when it comes to the potential of trade, if all these countries develop, trade ties and then value chains, I think that economic progress in the region, and especially when it comes to finding solutions for the most destitute or poor, that will not be a distant dream. It will become very quickly a reality. And so, of course, learning from China's example, learning from other countries' example. Remember, Russia right now is a highly sanctioned country, and yet its economy keeps on growing. Why would that be? Because over the years they have created this endurance. On one side, you have two of the most populous countries in the world. On the other side, you have this country like Russia, which territory-wise, for example, in Pakistan, you have Punjab, which is the most populated province of the country. And then you have Balochistan, which is the largest territory. So Russia is the largest territory of any nation in the world, right? And on the other side, you have these populations also. Now bring them together, combine the energies, and just see the kind of magic that takes place. Multilateral magic is, and by the way, there are attempts in the Western media to downplay SCO as a counter to NATO, counter to this or that. That is none of our concern. At this moment, what should matter? We are in the 21st century and first quarter is almost gone, right? And despite that, so many people are still poor. Why should they be? Why is it that there is so much suffering still? So all these platforms, all these economic activities, may they be e-commerce, may they be digitization of economy, all can actually help people in getting a better life. So why not? We can start it, and this body does not have to compete with anybody else. All they need is working in tandem, finding solution for their own people and people of the region.
Right. With that, of course, for Rafae, you've encompassed all the different aspects with regards to the digital economy, the e-commerce. But I'd like, as we're also going towards the conclusion of our special transmission, this segment in particular, I'd like your concluding remarks on President Xi's vision for the future with regards to the SCO's objectives of cooperation, regional cooperation, and of course the BRI, the Belt and Road Initiative, CPEG being a flagship project of that BRI. It also focuses on connectivity, it also focuses on enhanced trade ties within the region, and of course logistics support to each other. How do you comment in these modern times of heightened tensions, heightened conflicts, cooperation, not confrontation?
Right. You spoke about President Xi's vision. I think that the man is really a visionary. And this is the biggest problem with the Western mindset, right? Because in West, there's always this contrarian view that you have to always see any good idea as something that might be at your cost. That is not what China is trying to achieve. China has been actually building bridges everywhere. China is for a democratic international order, right? And of course, its own political, its own rise, peaceful rise, which is essentially focused on economics. The entire world, especially the pundits in the West, actually keep on viewing China as something that is essentially geared by the political aspiration. China's entire 5,000 years of history is essentially not focused on politics. China does not see itself as a policeman in the world, but it sees itself as the center of the world, right? So when you have this big population, you need to ensure that all the economic activities continue and there is no shake-up in the system, right? So there comes the idea of BRI. And that is not all. There is also, because you spoke about SCO, so there is also talk of Shanghai Spirit, right? And all of these things essentially are focused on one thing, to improve the life of the people in the region and the countries that are touched by this kind of progress. May it be BRI. Remember, BRI stands for Belt and Road Initiative. Do you know BELT is land connectivity? What is roads? It is essentially water channel routes, right? And then they actually are supposed to bring the world together. And of course, that ensures that China's economy also keeps on growing, but at the same time, it is not at the cost of anybody else. So this, and again, Rafae, biggest problem is that the Western pundits are actually informed by a pseudoscience called international relations. It has never been able to develop its proper body. All is based on theories, and they have never been able to predict anything correctly. in the past, for example, collapse of Soviet Union or anything else, or start of Cold War or start of World War as well. So with that kind of perspective, of course, when you are looking only in the rear view mirror rather than looking, in the front, in the forward direction, what happens is that you keep on fighting with the ghost of the past. And I think that it is high time that all the countries free themselves from the straitjacket of Cold War, and they realize that we are in a new century, we are in a new era, and in that era we have to work in tandem, because the challenges from automation, AI and everything, and climate change are going to pose existential challenges, and we cannot allow to be divided. The moment we do that, this Shanghai spirit becomes a reality, and it educates the West as well.
Farooq Badafi, articulate, very articulate as always. Of course, the SCO 2024, a huge success for Pakistan, as said by all quarters. That's the only thing that we're hearing at the moment. The special transmission on SCO 2024 will continue, but after a break for the news bulletin. Stay tuned.